Hello, today's project is about a set of cards I've done using a single 12 by 12 sheet from the Gentlemans Emporium paper collection. So I've got 3 of the cards here completed already, and they're kind of variations on a theme, so I'm going to show you how to do the foiling that goes on them all. But if I just lay these down in a tile pattern, and my last one is this one, that's the sheet. And I know that's hard for you to see, but there'll be a picture from above on the blog, and this is a smaller version because this is from the 6x6 paper pad, but it's that sheet there cut roughly into 6x6 blocks. Because I wasn't making them quite 6x6, my panels are actually cut to 14 centimetres square. I've been able to choose which lines I've included in which and make sure I've got borders that I want to be kept. So that's where I started, because I thought, you know, a big 12 by 12 piece of paper can be quite intimidating. I find I'm not a scrapbooker, I'm a card maker, and thinking, well, which bit shall I use and where shall I cut it? So I thought, right, make 4 cards, 1 sheet, same colour tones for each, do some variations on the theme. And I also thought I'd have a think about what foils particularly work for masculine cards. So on this one here, the foiling is very subtle. Let me bring it right up to the camera for you. There we are, you can see it in the corners on the tag, and the actual sentiment is done in a vintage matte finish silver, but this around the edge is done using this one, and this describes itself as grey foil light matte finish. Now let me get it out of the box, because it's quite a strange foil, this. It gives quite a subtle effect because it's kind of a clear tinted foil. There we are. So whatever you're doing, whatever card you've got, kind of some of the pattern shows through and it just gets darkened a bit. So let me just find here while I was testing out what I was doing. So here, I used it twice on here. Let me get the camera to adjust its, not so much its focus, but its lighting on this. So the lighter version there, that was foiled onto white card before I added the colour, and then this version was put on after I added the colour, and you can see the variations in tone through the foil, but it just sort of makes them all a shade darker. So that's been interesting to play with. So that's that one. And then I've got this one, which is called Driftwood foil matte finish, and that's what I've used on this card in the corners and for the sentiment. Let's get the camera to pick that up. Well, that's better. So it's almost like faded gold. And I've used it on here as well. So as I say, I think it works well for masculine cards. It's that little bit of warmth, but without being too razzle dazzle. So really like that one, and that is a kind of normal non-see-through foil, but it's a gorgeous colour. Love that. So that's that, and then the other one I thought I'd try out is black, and this is actually called Midnight Black Foil, and it's a shiny black foil. There we are, completely opaque, as in not see-through at all. Try and get it on the end of the roll. There we are. So that's a a normal one of those. So, as I say, thought I'd try that one out. And the other thing with this, now, for the Gentlemans Emporium paper collection, Couture Creations do some lovely coordinating plain cardstocks. I've seen pictures of them and they are lovely, they work with it great, but I haven't got any, and I'm in the UK and I don't know of anywhere I could get those. So I've improvised, and I've improvised in two ways because I thought you might need to improvise as well. So I've used, I've got a die stuck to it, but some plain smooth grey cardstock. Okay, so that's my grey, and then let me get my packet of bits and pieces out. I decided I wanted something that was a bit darker than the paper I'm using, but not quite a solid colour. So I've done some inked backgrounds using some water-based pens, using stamping card, and you know, the sky's the limit with this, because you could make it in any shade you wanted really to coordinate with whichever papers you've got. So that's how I've done the card I've used on this. That was a more grey one. Okay, there'll be some close-up pictures on the blog post of this. And then this one has got a bit more blue in it. So you can foil and then colour, or colour and then foil, but actually I think I got better results by colouring, getting the paper flat, and then foiling and die cutting, because I think the foiling and die cutting process helps get the last of the unevenness out of the cardstock. It's gone quite back to being quite flat, but when you die cut it, because the card gets stretched again, that all helps. So that's where I'm going with this. So first things first, I'm going to use some of my plain grey. Now these aren't quite 6x6 cards, because I'm being in the UK, I'm working on A4 card. So for my card base, which I've got one of plain one here, I've taken a piece of A4 card, folded it in half to make an A5 card, and then used my Couture Creations mini guillotine to cut it to a square. Okay, so that's how I've got my square card base. So that is, I think it's 14.8.5 is the official measurement. So my matte layers I've cut to 14.5 centimetres square, and then the next layer down, which for this card will be this piece, is 14 centimetres square, so that will mat onto there. But to make my frame, because I'm doing a version of this, I then need this square. So I've got my card that I'm going to use, and I'm going to use it for my base mat, and then I'm positioning my die centrally on it and taping it in place, so that I end up with my mat, but then I can build the rest of my card without wasting any. Okay, I'm quite a frugal crafter. So first things first, I'm going to go and die cut this, so bear with me. Okay, so I've die cut, I've got my square, and I need to make sure I keep my little outer piece, because that's going to be my bottom mat layer. So I put that one in a safe place for the time being, and I've now finished with a big die for the time being. Now this obviously has the middle cut out, but I'm going to do my foiling before I cut out, because it helps keep everything more stable, so the card doesn't flap around on the go press when I'm trying to put the lid down and things. So I've got this, and I want to put my border around the outside. So I'm using, move those out of the way for a minute. These come as a set of 3. They're border Hotfoil stamps, okay, and I'm going to be using this one, okay. So to position that, I'm going to, doesn't matter which edge I position it on, because I'm going to be moving my card and turning it, but I do want it in the middle. So I'm just gonna, and I'm going to use 2 magnets on that side. But I need to make sure I can see the end of my card, so I want to make sure I've got the same amount of the Hotfoil stamp sticking out at either end. Now, it doesn't have to be all the way to the edge, but it does have to be level, so I can check on both sides, and I can use the pattern to see whether or not I've got it in the middle side to side. I'm not going to measure, I'm just going to do it by eye. Okay, that'll do nicely. So let me show you, I've got it that far from the edge. Let's get the camera to focus. There we are. And that's the other way, so I've got 2 magnets on it because it's long and thin and it will twist otherwise. Okay, so let me bring my Go Press over and show you where I'm going with this. So here's my Go Press and foil. So I want to be able to take my card in place at the edge of the Go Press and foil, and I need to know how far up I'm going to put it. So sometimes I use a mark and sometimes I use a measurement. I've got a couple of marks I was using, and I can either come over here and use the edge, or I can use the edge of the non-slip area. As long as I decide which I'm using and remember it, it doesn't matter on this size piece of card. Now you can do larger pieces of card if you've got the space in your die cutting machine for them to stick out of the edge of the Go Press. Okay, so let me just make sure this is straight. Right, and then I need to hold my Hotfoil stamp down through my card and take my magnets away. Being very careful that it doesn't twist. Okay, so that's in place. I'm going to close the lid and leave it to warm up while I sort my foil out. So my foil, which, ooh, I don't think the roll's quite big enough. So if I look at the width, it's not quite enough. Okay, so I'm going to take a little bit more than the length of my card off the roll. And quite often I'll just put my card on and kind of decide where I want to cut, and just fold the foil back against the card and just put a very light crease in. It gives me a line to cut along. Okay, but I only need a thin strip, so now I can cut this down lengthways. And I'm going to cut it into 4 Okay, so there's my foil all cut, so we won't have much going to waste. Just put that over there. Okay, and put that out of the way. So when my hot foil stamp has warmed up, I'll put my magnets out the way as well. Then I can add my foil and put my card back on. So opening my lid, one of my pieces of foil, make sure the foil is sort of in the middle of the hot foil stamp. It's not quite the full length of it. And then I can put my card on. See, I'm working with a square, so it doesn't matter which way round my card is. That's it. Line it up with the edge all the way along. And then I'm going to use a piece of tape to hold that in place. Okay, so I'm just taping to the white edge. And then I need, because I've tested this out beforehand, 2 shims. Okay, you may need to test with a small piece of card and foil with a hot foil stamp beforehand to make sure you know how many shims you need. Okay, and then that can go, actually I'm going to make sure it's hot enough because I've pulled it off the base to show you. So I'm just going to let that warm up and then I'm going to roll it through my die cutting machine. Okay, so it's been through the die cutting machine. Let's have a look. So I've picked up my card. I haven't moved the hot foil stamp. That's quite important. Let's peel the foil. Okay, well that's come out of a bit of a distressed look, which actually for this I like. So I'm going to live with that and do it all the same. So now I'm going to turn it round so that my foiled edge is up against the side of the go press. Add another piece of foil. And put this down again. Add some tape. Put my shims back on. Warm it up again. Now, if I want that pristine foiling, I need to add another shim. And it is a matter of testing it out on the card with the hot foil stamp you're using. For, you know, for each foil you use really. And you will get to know them. I always find red foils in particular seem to need more pressure than other foils. So you do kind of learn with experience. I've not used this black foil a lot. When I do the next one, we'll add another shim and you'll see how it comes out when it has more pressure. So let me roll this through. Okay, I'm going to peel the foil. It almost looks stamped rather than foiled, and I quite like that. Right, so the next bit, I'm going to leave the hot foil stamp exactly where it is. So I'm going to put this back on the base so it stays hot. And then for the next bit, bring my bits and pieces back. I want to mask. So somewhere in here, I've got 2 little pieces of card I've been using. No, I've already left them out so that they're to hand. Here they are. There. Right. Okay, so I used these when I did the one I've already done. And what I'm going to do is tape these in place over the foiling I've already done, so that when I do the other two sides, it misses that bit. Now, be careful where you put your tape, because you don't want it to get in the way of the foiling you're about to do. And I'm just going to use one, no, I need both at the same time, because I'm turning this around. That's not a very good piece of tape, it's got a hole in it. Right, so there I've masked off, and now I'm going to do these edges. So I bring the go press and foil back. Stay. Another piece of foil. And then this time, with the mask going across, but lining the grey card up with the edge, tape it in place, add the shim, and then I'm going to make sure that's hot enough before I roll it. Okay, so just bear with me. Okay, so that's been through the die cutting machine. Okay, and I can peel my foil off of there. And then I need to do along this edge. So my last piece of foil, onto my Hotfoil stamp. Make sure you know which edge you're foiling. So it's that one. So I need to go that way. Then line the grey card up with the edge. Tape it in place. Add my shims. And then make sure it's warm. Okay, so we've done all the foiling for this. And then I can take my masks off. Let me just put the go press out the way. There we are. So I'm keeping the masks for next time. Okay, and there's my square. Now I want this as a frame, so I'm going to cut the middle out of it using another die from this set. And it doesn't matter what set of square dies you've got. Can't even remember what makes these are. But yeah, whatever set of nesting dies you've got. So, no, it's not that one. It must be that one. No. Okay, so the small one. There we are. So I'll cut that out, and then I've got a frame. Okay, and that's going to look through into the middle of my card. So bear with me while I die cut that, and then you can see how it looks in the end. Okay, so here's my die cut frame. So let's see if I can pull the card together so you can get an idea of how that's going to look in the end. Lost where I put the card down now. Bear with me. Okay, so I've got my card base, the outer part of the square that we cut our frame from, so that will go down there. I've got my pattern paper cut to size, so that will go on top. And it's a lot easier when you've stuck that one thing down before the other. And then my frame on some foam pads will go on top. And we'll have something like that. And then it will need a sentiment in the middle. And I've got one of those that I made earlier. You wouldn't believe I get organised before I do these videos, would you? Ah, there it is. There I have my frame. And the sentiment that I'll probably tuck in a corner, something like that. Maybe go across the corner. Well, that'd be quite good. Yeah, let's do that one. So there we are. There's another variation on the thing, all made from the 1 12 by 12 sheet. So that's that one. The next one I need to show you is how I made the squaring set panel. So that is this version. Okay, so for that one, it's kind of up to you how big or small you go, but it's the next die up from that one, and the corner bits do overlap a bit, so you might decide to go up one bigger, which is that size? No, it's that size, which isn't quite as big as the frame on the other one, but it's a bit bigger than what I've used there. There are options, but the one I've used is this size. Okay, so again, what I did there was I took my background, cut to size, and this one is, so 14.5 centimetres, and then I've cut square out of the middle to use to make the panel. So let me go and cut myself a square, and then I'll show you how that's done. Okay, so I've die cut this, so now I have my piece of card to do my foiling on. Let's just untape that, put it out of the way. So my Hotfoil stamp for this is beautiful corner one. Okay, and again that's part of the Gentlemans Emporium collection. Okay, so let's put that to one side. That's going to be my matte layer. Small nested dies there. Let's move that out of the way. So again, I'm going to use my magnet to position this. Oops. It's alive. Okay, so I only need one of them this time. So So I just want to get this so that it's nicely kind of evenly in the corner and just a tiny bit away from the edges of the card. There we are. So, and even on both sides. So make sure the magnet's over nicely in the middle of the Hotfoil stamp. And then let's bring the Go Press and Foil over. Now, what have I done with my pick and lift? There we are. So this one can come off. And this one can go on. And what I like to do is put the diagonally opposite corner down in the bottom left of my machine. And then not move my Hotfoil stamp as I'm putting it down. Okay, so the card's going to go up against both edges in the corner. And then I'm going to slide my fingers under my tape here, hold my Hotfoil stamp down while I take the magnet away. And I can pick my card up and put that on the Go Press to warm up. Okay, now for this one I do want to make sure that I'm going to get a good foil transfer. So I'm going to use this piece of waste card. It's the same card, it's been coloured in the same way. I used it for trying out an option for a sentiment earlier. So I'm going to use that, and I am going to do a test this time. So let me get some black foil. See if I haven't got a piece that I've already used. Oh, that will do nicely for a test. So I'm just going to cut this very roughly to the right kind of shape and size. The piece of card isn't big enough to do the whole. So I need to wait until my Go Press and Foil is up to temperature. And then I can put this foil down and test out how many shims I need. I'm going to use some smaller shims. So I had 2 there, so I want 1, 2, at least 3. Well, that's a double one, so I might use that and 1 more. Quite often when I want to work with 3, I tuck the 3rd one inside. It just makes it easier when I'm putting them on and off to keep them together. But I'll have the others ready in case I decide I need a 4th one. So bear with me a minute. Okay, so my Go Press and Foil is hot. Now this has been positioned for my big piece of card, so I'm just going to kind of guess where I'm putting this. It is just to test out how much pressure I need. About there. I'm going to put my 3 shims on. That's not been off the heat very long, so I'm going to roll it straight away. I'm giving it an extra roll. There are some quite broad areas on this Hotfoil stamp, so I want to make sure that my foil has had a chance to adhere. There we are. So let's peel this off. There we are. So I think 3 shims will do us fine for what we're doing. 3. Now I'm gonna use a 4th one and test again. So where's my piece of foil that I cut from? is. I think I've got just enough there to do another small test. Turn my piece of card around, do that side, grab one extra shim, and make sure it's hot enough before I roll it. Okay, so bear with me. Okay, so I've rolled that through. So let's see if that is the right number of shims, or if I've now got overfoiling or what. Well, actually, I think that's probably just right. So there we are. So I'm going to keep that warm and cut some foil. So I find the most efficient way of working with this is to take the long side of the corner Hotfoil stamp and just work out how much foil I need for that, and cut that section off. So just a little bit oversized. Okay, and then you, rather than cutting from the corner, come in, I think how much, about 3/4 of an inch, a couple of centimetres. Okay, and if it helps, fold the foil in half as well, so you know where you're going. Okay, just a tiny little crease. And then, so I'm going to come in about 2 centimetres, and I'm going to cut diagonally across, but not to the point is there, so that I can then cut up that line. So then I've got, rather than points on the end of my triangle, they just cut across. Okay, and then if I turn that around and put it on there, I can cut that piece off the end. And that's enough for doing a test foiling for another project. And then just tidy up these bits here. Just bear with me while I sort that noise out. Sorry about that. Okay, so you now have quiet, and I can get my GoPro some foil, and I can add my foil that I've cut. Okay, and I can get my piece of card, which is here, and just line it up with the white edges of the corner. Tape it down, and then take my shims that I've worked out exactly what I need, put them on, and that, I'm just going to make sure that is hot enough. Yeah, that stayed green. So I'm just going to roll that through. see what we've got this time. So again, leaving the Hotfoil stamp exactly where it is. Let's peel the foil off. Yeah, that's good. And then I straight away can add another piece of foil. And turn my card to do the next corner. It doesn't matter whether you go anti-clockwise or clockwise. Do the diagonals first, so long as you do a different corner each time. I'm just lining it up in the corner again, taping it down, adding my shims, and then I'm going to make sure it's warm enough before I roll it. Okay, so that's 2 corners done, and it's literally a case of just adding foil, rotating the card, taping it back down and rolling it. Now if you do this with the hot plate staying on the base plate so it stays hot, then the process goes much more quickly. So I'm going to finish off the other 2 corners and then come back to you. Okay, so there's my completed foiling. And if we go back to this version that I did in the Driftwood foil, so what I've done here is I've cut the circle out of here, but then I've added a white ring to kind of give it a finished edge. So to get the ring, I'll just take 2 circle nesting dies and tape them down together, and then I'm going to die cut that. And then using the smallest circle, I need to die cut out of the middle of this. And I'll be back because I've got some tips for lining that up. So bear with me while I die cut this one. Okay, so that's my ring die cut. Gently peel my tape. Okay, so I've got a spare circle, and I want, there's my ring, and then I need the smaller of the 2 dies to cut my aperture out. So if I put this down on this piece of card, because these have all been foiled exactly the same, they're you know, completely centralised. If I look at the, there's my pencil. If I look at kind of these curls, I'm just going to be having those just on the inside of the circle, and I can check that they're all just inside the circle from the top of their arc. Yeah, and then just make sure that does look sensible and that everything looks like it's the same distance from all the edges. And then at the corners I can see where I'm going through another curl and kind of a leaf shape, and make sure I'm going through all of those at exactly the same point. Actually that one looks a bit different there, so maybe I'm just a bit off on the diagonal. I'm just going to make sure it looks the same at each point, and then I'm going to tape it in place. I'm going to try and put my tape kind of on the inside, because I always prefer to put most of my tape on the waste of whatever I'm cutting, just in case it picks up any foil and spoils the finish. Okay, so that's my circle die cut in place. Let me just go and die cut that. Okay, so I've got kind of a cute circle tag. You might see that crop up on another project. And then I've got my circle here, and as I say, that's going to go round there just to finish off that edge. Now, so I'm going to wet glue that in place. There, and that just finishes off that cut edge. So let me get the bits and pieces together and we'll see how this is going to look made up as a card. So that was for the other one. I've got a card blank. I've got my mat that I cut my original square from. So you try and turn that round where the camera will be able to see it. I've got that. I've got my lovely pattern paper. That will go on some foam pads. Ooh, let's find some foam pads. I might add some more later. Okay, so that will go somewhere like that. And then my sentiment, what have I done with the sentiment? Bear with me. Okay, so it's not stuck down, but you'll kind of get the idea that it's going to look something like that. Quite like the contrast from the black. So there we are. So 4 cards, maybe 5, depending on how many variations of the different colour foil you decide to do. But 4 cards using 1 sheet of 12 by 12 paper and just a couple of Hotfoil stamps. So there we are. So the very last thing I want to show you is how I made my backgrounds. So very quickly, because this really is quick anyway, you need a water spritzer. Let me just grab mine. Mine's quite a posh one. It works at any angle, but anything will do. And I've got some water-based brush pens. So just put some bits of scribble down with gaps between them. It doesn't have to be solid. Well, I've got some shades of grey and shades of blue here. I think one of them I've worked in some green as well. It's a bluey grey. This is one of those things, if you start off and it's too light, you can always add more colour later. Some blue, and let's have some, there's a really earthy green. Right, let's see what we get. And it always is a bit of a journey of discovery. And if you don't like how the colours blend, you can add some different colours and put your card in it again. So spritz in with water. Well, I do spritz the card as well. I'm not going to do that not going to do that on camera. I'll end up with a wet lens. So then just kind of lay it down in your mess. Smooth it kind of with the flat of your hand rather than your fingertips. Doesn't matter if it gets onto the back of the card. Doesn't really matter if you decide to do both sides in the end. Okay, I like to give it a little bit of time for the ink to soak into the card. And then you pick it up and you see what you've got. And sometimes just dragging it across just helps smooth out the colour and blend it. You never get the same thing twice. And if you need it to move a bit more, you can spritz the card some more. Okay, if you decide it's too wet, you can blot it. And if I decide that bright blue is very, very strong, I can put down some more of the darker colours, kind of fade that out again. Let me do that, put down some more colour. Spritz. Sometimes where I've got these kind of zigzags, it's not necessarily a zigzag in the colour, it's just where the card's wetter in those places. And sometimes you have to leave it to dry and see what you've got. And they'll fade away. I've got a bit of mist down here, yeah, so I can wet the card, get the ink to run a bit more. There, so that's quite a nice soft finish. Blot up some of the water. Don't want to blot up too much water because I'll take the colour with it. I'm going to dry my mat. There, and then leave that to dry. Okay, so you can use a heat gun, but I find it best leave it in a warm place. Seems to work well. And just let it dry naturally. And it always seems to end up looking darker when it's dry. And then if you decide you need some more colour, you can wet it again and add more colour. So that's how I've made my kind of splurgy backgrounds. So thank you for watching.